Say hello. Wait. This is Ralph. If you follow me on Instagram, you will have already met Ralph. Ugh. If not, I'll leave my username down below. Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today's video is just going to be just a quick video. Oh God, I'm out of breath. I'm putting a dog outside. I'm out of breath from putting the dog away. Oh, boiling. So I know that a lot of you found me from my past life regression video. So thank you very much for sticking around if you did. If you didn't watch that one, or you haven't watched it, I will link it down below so you can go and check it out, because then this video is going to make a lot more sense if you watch that other one first. So if you want to go and do that, then come back. Make sure you come back to this one though. So during quarantine, I guess like a lot of people, I've been kind of doing a lot of inner work, you know, all that horrible stuff that nobody wants to actually have to deal with. And one of the things that has been playing on my mind has been the regression that I did and the information that I got from that. Really, I just wanted to film a quick video to kind of, analyse it a bit maybe. I've really been trying to think over what I can remember from it and to see if there are any comparisons between that life and this life, if there are any lessons that I should be taking and learning. So briefly then, my past life regression brought up a life in the 1700s for me where I was only like late teens. I lived with what I believe to be my sister in some wooden, like one room hut, shack, whatever you want to call it, on the edge of a forest. There was a village on one side. My nails are awful. There was a village on one side and there was this foresty area on the other side. And I was super content, super happy there, loved my life, and eventually got killed by a guy who I refused to marry. That's probably why I refused to marry you, mate. But in all seriousness, I have been really trying to see if there are any lessons, anything that I can take from that I can use in this life. And the main thing for me that kept coming up was just the location that I was living in. Surrounded by nature, surrounded by trees and grass, and just being one with the earth is something that I have really craved in this life. In my past life, I spoke about how I thought that I was a witch. And when I say witch, I don't mean like like hocus pocus, like jars of dead man's toes and stuff knocking around. What I really mean is more sort of the Wicca side of things, using nature, being one with nature, using herbs and flowers and leaves, and just experiencing Mother Nature in all of her glory and all of the benefits that she has to offer. And during this life, I have absolutely craved to live in a very, very similar setting to what I lived in that life. In fact, when I was pregnant with my son, we moved into a brand new house in the middle of a brand new housing estate, like a huge housing estate. It was so big that it was several different developers had bought like plots of land, and they were doing it in phases and like just building around and building out. It was going to be massive once it was all completed. So we moved into this house and it was beautiful. The house was absolutely stunning. Like, it was 3 stories, so it was really big inside. But I was never ever happy in this house. People used to say to me, why aren't you happier? Like, you're married, you've got a beautiful daughter. My daughter was 2 at the time. You're pregnant, you're expecting a son. You've got this gorgeous home. It's brand new. It's warm. But for me, I just always felt really lost in that house. That's the only way I can describe it. It wasn't like depression. It wasn't even like sadness. It was just lost. It was like I'd lost my connection to myself. And when people used to say to me, why don't you like living here? My answer was always, there are no trees. And even I didn't understand why I was so obsessed with the fact that there were no trees. Like literally every single window that you looked out of, regardless of what floor you were on, all you could see was bricks, other people's houses. Even in the gardens were, new estates, the gardens are mostly tiny anyway, aren't they? But no one had any trees or anything. In fact, a lot of people around there had dug up their grass and put artificial grass down, which, like, I'm not a fan. Like, when I stand on grass, I like to feel the earth, beneath my feet. I can't. No, artificial grass is not for me. But it just used to weigh on my mind all the time that there were no trees anywhere. Even when I took my daughter to the park, there were no trees there. There was just nothing. And fast forward to when we moved into this house. This was the first house that I got after I got divorced. And I remember the first night that I stayed here, and I was on my own. I hadn't brought the kids over yet because I hadn't brought all the furniture in. And I remember looking out of the kitchen window, and along the back is just trees. It's just a line of trees, like huge, big, established trees. And just watching them and watching the birds flying around them, and watching there was a family of squirrels that used to jump along from tree to tree, and just this overwhelming sense of gratitude and just calmness just came over me, purely for the fact that I could see trees when I looked out of my window. I do believe that is why, in my regression, why I felt so calm and so content was because of, a lot of it was because of the location that I lived in at that time. I think another reason why I was so happy in that life was, I just remember just this feeling of being comfortable in my own skin. Like, I didn't care that I was seen as different. I didn't care that I didn't fit in with society. And for me in this life, I've gone through that again. I'm a natural empath. I'm naturally introverted. I don't like to be around a lot of people. It really, if you're an empath as well, you'll know that feeling of just being completely drained when you're around people. Don't get me wrong, I like to go out. I go out every couple of months, and that's enough for me, like on a night out. But for the longest time, I had other people trying to put their ideas, their fears, their opinions onto me. And I felt guilty for being the way I was. I felt guilty for the fact that I didn't want to go out and be around groups of people. All I ever heard in my teenage years and my early 20s was, well, normal teenagers want to go out all the time, so you must not be normal. And that really played on my mind, like, well, no, I don't want to go out and be surrounded by strangers constantly. I like being at home. I like my own company. That's me. And for the longest time, like I say, I felt guilty because I wasn't, out every weekend, or I didn't need to be surrounded by people 24/7. And that's something that, I'm in my 30s now, and it's only really since I turned 30 that I've become comfortable in my own skin. Like, I don't apologise now for the fact that I don't, even sometimes, like if it's family get-togethers and stuff, there are times when I just have to say, no, I don't want to go. And before, like not all of my family, but some of my family would take offence to that. Like, it was a personal attack on them, and it wasn't. It never was. Whereas now they understand that that's just me. And I think when I stopped apologising for not being this loud, outgoing, you know, wanting to go out and party and be around people all the time type person, and owned who I was. Everyone around me accepted that this is me and this is who I am. And this is okay to be like this, you know? And I think that is something that I'm kind of envious of in that past life, because she was so young and she'd already figured out, like, don't care what anybody else, you know, says or what anybody else thinks of you. And that is a lesson that has really taken me a long time to learn, I think. And it's one that I'm still learning, to be fair. And, you know, I think it's probably going to be an ongoing process. And just that she was so sure of herself. Because the guy that ended up killing me, essentially, in this life, I probably would have married. As sad as that sounds, that I was so consumed by the need to fit in. I was so bothered by what everybody else had told me, all the fears and things that they'd put on me from themselves, that I probably would have married this horrible guy and lived a miserable life. I wonder whether that is one of my life lessons for this life, is just to learn to be comfortable with who I am. To be happy with who I am is probably a better way of saying it. And I am. I own the fact now that I'm an empath. I don't care that some people don't understand it, and some people go, all right. I know what I feel. I know what I have experienced. I own the fact that, I read tarot cards. I can't read for myself though, which is the most frustrating thing in the whole wide world. But for other people I can read for, but not myself. I use crystals, and I like to be in nature. Like, I've got all my plants and things around me. I can't bear when people have artificial plants and stuff. No, get a real plant. Get a real plant. A living, breathing plant. I know lots of people said in my last video that I should try and see what lives I'd had in between, because obviously from the 1700s to now is a huge chunk of time. But something again that I did in that life was to trust my intuition, whether it was with marrying this guy or just how I lived. And for a long time in this life, again, it's a bit like accepting, me for me. I didn't trust my intuition. I didn't follow my intuition. I buried any feeling and things that I had because I didn't want to have to deal with the consequences of it. And the gut feeling was always right. Eventually, you get to that point, don't you, where you say, oh God, I should have trusted my intuition, and I didn't. But I'd say the last sort of 5 years is where I've started to listen less to like my ego and trust more in my intuition, trust more in my gut instinct. So with regards to doing another regression, I do want to, but at the minute I don't feel drawn to doing one. So I'm really trying to wait until I get that urge like I had last time, because I think that's when it's going to be the most powerful. I think that's when I'm going to get the most information and have the most benefit of doing it. And to be fair, by analysing that last life, I still feel like there's something that I'm missing. Like there's, I don't know, like maybe a lesson or just something that I'm supposed to take into this life. I just can't quite put my finger on it, and it's really, really annoying me. But it will come. I know it will come, and it'll probably be one of those light bulb moments where something happens and you go, oh, that's what that means. I do wish though that during the regression that I was able to pull some real tangible details, like a name or a date or the name of a village or something like that. Because even though I 100% believe in past lives and things, it would have been nice to have something to be able to trace back or try and research, because, you know, there's that lawyer side of me that's always like, where's your evidence? Look, come on, back it up. So it would have been really nice to have a name or something. And I said that in my previous video, actually, that I would love to do a regression with... Thank you so much for watching this anyway, and thank you for watching my other video. I really do appreciate it. The channel it's building, we're getting there. If you haven't already, please, I would love it if you would subscribe. Leave any comments down below. I do try and respond to everyone that I can. And go and follow me on Twitter, on Instagram, and and until next time, take care. A therapist or a hypnotist, because I think then they would guide you to those sorts of details that I think is very difficult to pull out when you're trying to do it yourself, and especially because it was my first time doing it, and you're not really sure what to expect and what's going to happen. So next time, I'm looking for names next time.